appropriate boundaries upon our sexuality as well. It's hard for an addict to understand and really realize that. Our sexuality creates bondedness, a bondedness that is very powerful and important for us to experience and understand. As we understand even the morality aspect, and I'm going to bypass that, the spiritual part we've talked about already also, but also understanding just the biology of this. In recent studies, it's been found that oxytocin, a wonderful hormone that is produced in the body, is a very powerful element in creating this bondedness. For many decades, we've known that oxytocin, that hormone, is the bonding hormone between a mother and her newborn child. It also facilitates lactation of the breast for breastfeeding. In recent studies, we found that oxytocin is also secreted during sexual arousal for men and women. So there is a bonding and a connectedness that is created in a relationship. Now, in a healthy relationship, that strengthens and helps and facilitates a long-lasting commitment. But if those pathways, conversely, are created inadvertently or prematurely between a couple, then it creates also a bondedness with those individuals that then becomes confusing because there hasn't been the established relationship over time to warrant that powerful bondedness that is created. We could go to the next slide. Our sexuality and our attractions to another person in those relationships can be very much, in my mind, like a pathway. This path is just a very beginning of a pathway. In our brains, we can kind of correlate that to what happens in the brain when we begin to have experiences and thoughts, and we begin to reinforce those experiences with certain activities. That pathway is beginning like very much a deer trail or a trail that has not been trampled very often. And then over time, if you'll show the next slide, that pathway becomes much wider and deeper. That's what happens in the neural pathways of the brain. And so as we experience activities that create that bondedness with another person, those pathways become deeper and deeper. But again, if it's done prematurely, it creates a lot of confusion. And many of you know if there is sexual activity that's introduced too early in the relationship, it many times and most of the time ends in disillusionment and pain and hurt. So can you see also the implication, as we're talking even about oxytocin, can you see the implication that that has with pornography, with fantasies and masturbation that are associated usually always with the use of pornography? That during that arousal pattern, that exposure to that material, and the body experiences then that arousal, that oxytocin is being created, and there is an artificial bond then with those pictures, with those images, or with that person or individual that I'm thinking about. And the system doesn't know the difference. When I talk to young people about the difference between pornography and masturbation and actually a sexual experience with another individual, they'll often ask the question, what's the problem with all of that? What's the problem with just looking at these pictures? I'm not hurting anybody else. It's not creating really any harm. But what the harm that is being created is internally, because there is a bondedness that is being created with those images that becomes deeply embedded, and the pathways become deeper and deeper and more profound. And it's harder and harder to be able to pull away from the power of those images because of the bondedness that is created. And so as we talk about this, hopefully you can see the importance of being able to limit the exposure to material that then creates arousal and a bondedness to those images. It creates an artificial bond that then distracts